Hello. Today, instead of talking about the new Nikon D7700 or the D875, we're going to talk about my first digital camera, and that was the Kodak DC265. It's actually very similar to this one, which is the DC290. I no longer have the 265, so I bought a couple of these 290s on eBay just as a remembrance to have them, so I know how it was in the early days of digital photography. So just to have them as a remembrance. But the 265 came out in 1999, and it sold for $899. So it's a lot of money, and of course that's a long time ago, 1999. 133 dog years, actually. Now, the 265 was an upgrade from the 260, which was supposed to be a very decent camera yet, but very, very slow. Not that the 265 set any speed records. By today's standards, it's a turtle, very, very slow. Even just turning it on and starting it up took a long time. And then when you take a picture, it just took a long time until everything captured. But for what it was at the time, I was pretty amazed, and one of my friends in Columbus, Ohio, he recommended the camera to me. Personally, he had a DC260, and he told me about this camera, so I bought it. And this guy was just a digital genius, way ahead of his time back then even. As a matter of fact, I believe he was one of the first to be awarded his degree in electronic imaging in the WPPI, which is the Wedding and Portrait Photographers International. Now, the Kodak 265 had a 1.6 megapixel sensor. It did 3 times optical zoom, and it also had a 2-inch LCD monitor. Not bad, huh? And the focal length of the lens was 38 millimeter to 115 millimeter, and the ISO was 100. And some of the neat things that this camera had, but I really didn't use it. It was supposed to have a time-lapse option that you could set for 24 hours. That's something I never used. Now, I did start using this camera professionally. I would use this at a wedding. Now, I would just do 1 or 2 images when I had the opportunity. Now, the way that I would use this camera at a wedding, outdoors, it's no problem. I could just have my assistant hold the reflector for natural light and the reflector. But indoors, if I wanted to use flash, I would have my assistant hold my camera. I was using at the time, it was the medium format Hasselblad. And I would just take the PC cord from the Hasselblad and I would plug it into the Kodak, which this also accepts your PC cord, so that's pretty amazing. And then I was able to just shoot. I would usually use a flash as a fill or as a bounce off the ceiling, and I would just take 1 image that way. And that image actually came out to a 4:6 proportion, and sometimes I could crop it to a 5:5 since I was shooting square with the Hasselblad. And then sometimes if I had to keep it as a rectangular, I can go 4:5 and then put that into their album. But anyway, so that was my first experience using my first digital camera. And I also used this for a professional job in the studio. I had somebody that wanted a photograph of a drum set. Boom, boom, boom. You know, the drum set as a musical instrument. And all they wanted was digital images for their website. So they came into the studio with several different drum sets and several different snares and things. So we got them all together and then separate. And I used a seamless white background in my studio lighting. And of course, I just plugged in my cable here to the PC connector, and beautiful photographs. However, because it's a small megapixel size camera, they were very, very adequate for doing things on the web. But to make up any kind of image, They say that you can go 8x10, and I have gone 8x10, but it's really obvious that it's from a digital camera. So quality was okay, But for 4x6 or 4x5 or even cropped to a 5x7 or 5x5, they were actually very, very nice. And the camera also came with a compact flash card, which is a 16 meg card. And I believe this is the one that came with the camera. Still have it. Don't use this too much anymore, but if I need it, I can use this as a backup for maybe one image. And it also took 4 AA batteries, and the batteries didn't last long at all. So I just wanted to share this little bit of information with you about my first digital camera, because I think it's important to know history so you know where you've been, and then this way you can appreciate where you're going. And as Bob Cummings used to say, hold it, I think you're going to like this picture. Until we meet again. Wait, before you go, just in case you ever want to photograph some small products easily, I'm going to run through and show you how I photograph this Kodak DC290. So I started with a light tent, and this is made by Neewer, Neewer. I believe it's about a 16 by 16 inch light tent. And then here you can see I'm putting a small LED portable light on each side, and this is called a limo light. You can get these, I believe I got these on Amazon. You can actually use 2 sets if you have to, and I just use the 2 sets in front to photograph the object. However, I like using the 4 lights because I can put 2 in the back, and I can use those 2 lights to light up more of the background, so we get more of a pure white background effect. And as we have a closer look, you can see that I put a poster board inside that light tent, and this acts as a nice clean sweep. So since we're using the 2 lights in front to light the object, and then we have the 2 lights in back putting a little bit more light on the background, we're able to get more of a pure white background. And the whole setup actually just takes a few minutes to set up, and then you can start photographing. You can use your tablet or your phone if you want to. Here I start off using my iPod Touch. And here's how it looks coming from the camera. And then just cropping it a little bit closer and just doing a little bit of cleanup on it. And then adding a little bit more color to the scene. And then here I'm using my Nikon D7200 with a Tamron 28-75mm f2.8 lens. And I photographed it the same way as I did with the iPod Touch. Then you can see the results with the digital SLR. And then you can also make it a little bit fancier. Here I just did a little bit more post-production using a program called Smart Photo Editor. So if you ever wanted to do some small product photography, I think this is a really simple and easy way of doing it. Thank you again for watching.